Oh, Yo, what is up, everyone? It is your boy Nerdtaku and your girl Sleepy Noel. She is hanging out. Um, she is super hype. You can tell by her little snores that she's excited for this chapter, and I am too. So I'm super hype. Um, so please, if you could, smash that like button. Subscribe if you're not, share, do whatever. Do do whatever you feel comfortable with. Um, I'm gonna be doing my live reaction to 1169. It is the official release for Viz. Um, and I am so excited. So if you want to follow along, I always do. Right down here in the corner where my logo is where I am at in the story. Um, so if you want to follow along, please do. It is gonna be apparently a really good chapter. So, um, I'm very excited for it. I think this is probably the last chapter we're getting of the year. I think, right? Because I think it's probably break week next week. Um, and then we have till New Year's, brother. So super excited. So let's jump into it. And I want to start by highlighting I did get spoiled on this, which is like the color spread that Oda did. And let me just say, this color spread is crazy awesome. Like, I love this. The Streusen over here in the right hand corner. And then right above him is um, Silver Axe or um, Hyo, I believe his name is. And then you have Gloriosa, and then Big Mom, and she's eating a cake, and Gloriosa has like a fork with a piece of it, which is super cool. Um, the really crazy thing is this guy in the back, Barbell. I did not expect him to have like a skin color flesh. You know what I'm saying? Like, I very much expected him to have like, because he looks like a fish man. Like like everyone was thinking he looks like the brother to Sunbell. His name's Barbell. Like a lot of people were thinking that. I was thinking it. But now we get the look that this dude is fleshy and he's just got like almost like this golden hair. And I'm just like, what the hell? Like, I don't know. It was just I was not expecting it. That's for sure. So, that was just kinda crazy. Then we got Don Marlin, RIP, looking like a gangster with his gun. Um, and then we got Kaido, big Kaido in the back. Um, and then under him we got Wang Ji, and I'm pretty sure Wang Ji's the one in the back holding up his middle finger because his hand is really small in comparison to how big Kaido's are holding his like Kanabo. So that's pretty interesting. Then we got Shiki floating in the back, just swagged out, you know, just just absolutely goating it. Between like Don Marlin and his cigar and Shiki and his cigar, they both look tough. And then we got Donzui, which I did not picture him with red hair. That's a kind of interesting one. But he's a pretty big dude too. Then of course you got Whitebeard. And then you got Stussy looking like Carrot on top of him. Um, and it's adorable. You know, who knows? Maybe there was something there. Could have been. Then you got Captain John doing Captain John things, counting the stacks, you know what I'm saying? And then you got the goat himself, swagged out, unbelievably, open collar shirt, red flower on the front, the fucking the overcoat thing looking like a blue dopey coat. Kind of looks like Laws in Wano. Just looks absolutely dope. We get his sword looking fly. It's not a black blade. And then we get his hair scheme and everything. Like he just looks so cool. And he's just petting a tiger like a fucking G. The only person, the only person I see missing here is was it Danny Masterson or did something like that? The dude that was like had four arms or whatever. He seems to be the only one missing, right? Or no, Gil Baster, not Danny Masterson. Danny Masterson was the um dude in filler that helped Usopp. No, Gil Baster. He's not anywhere on here, which is kind of I don't know. That kind of sucks because they got everyone and their mom over here. So even have Wang Ji, even though he was like the great betrayer. So like, I don't know. Kind of crazy that they didn't make Gil Baster here. But anyway, overall, super cool. I love how the people who went on to become Yonkos are like the biggest people in the picture outside of Barbell over here, you know, and it's like the four like quadrants, like up, down, left, right. You get like down rocks, up Kaido, left Newgate, and then right you get Big Mom. Pretty cool. Kind of cool. So anyway, I won't dwell on this too much longer, but overall, I think that this color spread is amazing. This would be a sick, like once the card game gets rocked as like a leader card or something like that. Like I can see people getting like a game mat made of this. It's that sick. And it also kind of reminds me of the one where the straw hats are on like the like shag rugs or what or like the stuffed lion or stuffed tiger rugs or whatever with like Sanji smoking and everything. Like it looks kind of familiar. But anyway, yeah. So that's all I gotta say about that. Let's get to this chapter because I need to know what's going on here. It says 14 years ago, Sun World Gabon's house. And then Shanks says, "What? Captain Roger had a son? What the fuck? This is funny." And it says, "Apparently so. That's what Garp told me at least." And then he said, "I'm amazed that he survived the Navy search then." And he said, 1169, my death cannot come soon enough. And Shanks says, "Well, in that case, I guess he's like a little brother to me." And Gaban says, "You're not wrong about that. You and Buggy were our sons." And Shanks says, "If he's got Captain Rogers' blood, then I guess he'll be the next generation's king of the pirates." And Gaban says, "Hey, it ain't a hereditary position. Sometimes those with the greatest expectations placed on them fail to achieve that greatness." Brother, brother, no. Oh my God. That's kind of crazy. That's like Oda poking fun at the fact that Ace got. That's crazy. And then Shang says, "You think so?" And Gavan says, "It's what makes life so fun and unpredictable." Crazy. And it says, meanwhile, the fateful scene at Elbaf's Aurst castle. And then we see Yoga. Oh no, Loki. I mean, Prince Loki has returned. Chief Jarul is here as well. So we're back to where this happened. And it says outside of the royal chamber. And it says, why did he, Your Majesty, he was coming to chain you up like you said. And he says, uh, why did I cut down my guard like that? It was like my body moved on its own. Was it to fulfill Emu's orders? It says to eliminate those who would stop me. And then it says, we see Emu's eye and it says, form an army of warriors. Mm, here we go. And we see Harold say, am I incapable of fighting back? Can those orders even alter my very thoughts? And then he's got like this thing and it says, for the rest of my life. And you see the abyss mark. And Harold says, for as long as I continue to live, my presence will only make this country worse. My body is a blight upon its safety. And he says, it was a waste. It was all for nothing. 144 years of life down the drain. My death cannot come soon enough. And he looks at all of his um, guards and says, quickly, kill me. And he says, I refuse to let Elbaf be enslaved. Brother, you alone made this possible because of the fact that you fucking did this. You got down there and said, I'm willing to be a slave as you ripped out your horns and did all of this shit in the hopes that you would be enslaved as long as your country was taken care of, not knowing that the world government was obviously going to not just be happy with you being a slave. Like, bro, your incapacity to listen to the people that cared about you the most is the whole reason for this. Like you were playing yourself. You were playing yourself by thinking that it was just gonna be you. Like yeah, 144 years down the drain because of your own actions. You ruined your own life. Like this is just it's hard to watch, I'll be honest. Because this guy is his own undoing on a massive scale. So anyway, he starts cutting down his people, and then he says, "Hurry before it's all taken over." And the guard says, "What are you doing, Your Majesty?" And then it says, "Hey, Pop, I'm back." And then we got double. And he says, "What's going on in here?" And Jero says, "Harold." And he's like, "How can this be? I truly am immortal." And he says, "I can feel my body recovering." And he says, "Stop it. Run for your lives, men." And he just swings and just destroys everyone. And it says, what can I do to die? Someone help me. Oh shit, what is happening here? Hold on. It's getting like 2 pages in one. Wait, what is happening here? Hold on. Okay, here we go. And he says, so basically, Harold and I have signed the shallowest of the covenants with this great one in Marieshwa. And he says, even with just this Shallows covenant, we can't resist as long as we're within that freak's range. And Gavon says, what an odd power. And Shank says, so once we were out of the Holy Land, we finally had the chance to talk openly. And and Harold says, uh, I knew it. You are from the red-haired pirates. And he says Harold was delighted about the deal he'd made to get Elbaf added to the government once he was in the Knights of God. But to do that, he has to sign the next level of this covenant. And Gabon says, is that bad or something? And he said, through the covenant, the holy knights of God gain superhuman strength and an undying body, as well the ability to generate an abyss, a means of traveling long distances. But in exchange, no matter where you are, you cannot defy the orders of the Great One, whose voice will reach you at any range. And Shang said, so if he agrees to the covenant, Harold will be forced to do what those people say. And he says, knowing how greedy they are, I can't imagine they would keep their word and give him what they promised. And Ron's like, dot, dot, dot. And Shang says, I don't think Harold should join the. And then he feels like a big burst of Conqueror's hockey. Okay, so Shanks is definitely pulling up here. And Loki has a mallet and says, hang on a second, Dad. What am I supposed to react to first? And he says, the fact that you haven't died with all those wounds, or the fact that you're trying to kill me and the castle guards. Where's this monster strength coming from? And Yarul's like, what happened to you, Harold? Come back to your senses. And then you hear, guards to the royal chamber. Help stop the king. He's been taken by madness. And then it says, are they fighting? Hurry, it must be that damn Loki. Save the king. Brother. And so Yarul and Loki pin him down and says, explain yourself, Harold. What happened? And he says, Beef Yarul, I've made a terrible mistake. And he's like, huh? He's like, very soon I truly will lose my mind. Listen closely, Loki. Do as I say. Oh, shit. And he says, I want you to tell the people of Elbaf exactly what happened here. That I killed my own guards, that I used joining the world government as an excuse to do their dirty bidding. Okay, here we go. This is crazy. This is ultimately they lied to me, and look at me now. I am about to hand over the people of Elbaf to the government to be their slaves in battle. And Loki says, what do you mean they tricked you? They never had any intention of honoring my request. And they're all like, Your Majesty. And Yarul is like, And he says, Chief Jarul, feed the treasure of Elbaf to Loki. And he says, what? With the power of God, I will be unstoppable. Elbaf being enslaved by the government is the very antithesis of my dream. And he says, ugh, that makes me the worst king in the history of Elbaf. This is crazy right now. Oh, I'm sorry. I had to move. Here. Um, and he looks at Loki with tears in his eyes and says, so you must kill me to take the throne, Loki. Tell the people what a fool of a king I was. Kill me and be a hero. And he says, once I'm dead, my reputation means nothing to me. All that matters is Elbaf's future. Am I wrong? And Loki says, "You'd really do this, all this for?" And he says, "Please, Loki, you're the only one who can do it." And he smashes his head up against the pillar. Bro, this is nutso. Because hold on here. Like the fact that he's gotten this monstrous strength, right? But Loki is still clashing with him. What seems to be semi evenly. Like Emu's probably actively trying to take this dude over. It's so crazy. And he's saying to feed the treasure, the devil fruit treasure to Loki to make sure that they don't get it. He's that fucking set on it. He said, dude, feed it to him. And then there's like a big Rah! And all of a sudden he just like pops off and King Harold is just cutting people down. And then he's like looking around and it says, there are criminals within the castle. And it says, huh? Your Majesty. That is a double spread. And he says, seal the front gate. And it says, right away, Your Majesty. And then there's like a guard behind him saying, you killed them all. And he cuts him right through his neck. And it says, you're not the real King Harold. And he says, but I am Harold, and I am now a vassal of the Great One. And he like cuts off he takes the sword through his neck, and then it starts like regenerating, and he just immediately destroys the people who stabbed him and says, no one shall escape to tell the tale of what happened here. Yo, this is fucking nuts, dude. And there's like a person on the ground and he's like barely alive. It says, hurry, run. And the King Harold just steps on his head and just crushes it. And he says, I will give this country over to Emu. And Yarrow says, hurry, Loki. And Loki says, why do I have to eat some devil fruit? Then I won't be able to swim anymore. What got into him? He's like a totally different person. And then Harold says, don't you dare eat it, Loki. That fruit belongs to me. You just told me to eat it. Talk about mixed signals. And Yarul stabs Harold in the back and says, if you eat that fruit, it will be the end of the world, Harold. And Yarul says, do it, Loki. Make sure Harold doesn't get that fruit. And Harold turns around and fucking puts his sword right through Yarul's head. Just like I said, I told you, I've been on this. I've been on this. I said that that fucking blade is the exact blade that Harold had in his picture, the one that was stuck in his head. And he just stink right in his head. Everyone's like, Chief Jarul. And Harold says, you gave me that blade years ago, Yarul. Now you can have it back, dude. What a menace. And he says, I'll eat that fruit and take Ragnir for myself. Oh, interesting. Interesting. He's mentioning Loki's hammer. I wonder if those two things coincide. And so he's running, and two guards are staying back to try and stop him. And Harold says, you cannot have it. And then out of nowhere, Jenks and Gabon show up and cut Harold. And Yrul says, it's Gabon. And he falls. And Harold's like, ugh. And it says, Yrul, what's happened to you? And he says, "The helmet saved my life." And he says, "Please stop, Harold. Don't let him go after Loki." And they're like, "Ugh." And Gaban says, "Based on what you said, it looks like the worst case scenario has come to pass." And Shanks says, "Harold, look around you. Come to your senses." And Harold says, "Ah, Shanks, this undying body is a wonderful thing. I feel superior to all other life." And Shanks says, "Damn it. Is there any way to break the control over him?" And Loki opens up the storage room and you hear like the chains like rattling. He's like, "Huff, huff." And says, "This is that storied relic of Elbaf, the forbidden devil fruit." And then all of a sudden, a hammer swings out of nowhere. And he says, "Whoa, who did that?" Hmm. So the devil fruit and Ragnir are both part of this in some capacity because it looks like Ragnir is swinging on Loki out of nowhere. Hmm. So interesting. It says to be continued. Damn. So this is kind of where I'm like kind of blown away by this, right? Like, so you mean to tell me, sure, maybe yeah, Rule got stabbed through the head, forgot what happened here, right? But then you have Gabon, who's literally part of the village, who literally knows what happened here, obviously, because he even says, he remarks that he said, based on what you said, it looks like the worst case scenario has come to pass. Meaning, it looks like Harold took that covenant and now he's willing to crash the fuck out, you know? So I'm like, okay, so he knows what happened. Why did he never fucking explain all this? And then we have a story about how Shanks supposedly followed Loki out to sea on his rampage and stopped him, brought him back to Elbaf, and chained him up. So unless this is part of like a red hair slash like, Loki scheme where they basically were like the best thing for us to do is to tie Loki up in the underworld to stop people like stop regular ass people from coming to Elbaf, which could have been a scenario that happens, but I really highly doubt it because the way that Loki talked about Shanks was that he was a rat. He was a low down, no good, motherfucker. Like, so Shanks and Gabon both know this, and they're both super tight with Elbaf. Never once, never once brought this up. Not a once. Like, hey, Loki had to destroy his dad, or we had to destroy his dad to stop him from taking over Elbaf and ruining it by giving it to Emu, you know? Like where it's very third Hokage never told Naruto that his dad was the fourth, or everyone knows that Naruto's the Jinchuriki, but nobody wants to talk about how, it wasn't his fault. Like it's not like he was born like that. He was given that, you know? Like it's just like motherfuckers talk, commiserate, have a conversation, right? What? Is Daddy crashing out a little bit? A little bit. Oh. Um, but like there's so much here that's just like if people would just talk, we could finally get somewhere. Like this is a lot of like this is kind of crazy because I think that we only have maybe 2 chapters, maybe 2 chapters left, and then we get back to regular Elbaf shenanigans, which is great. I'm happy to go back. It's been kind of a crazy ride with this backstory. Um, but yeah, this is just like this just reeks of like if motherfuckers just told everyone what happened, then we wouldn't be in this position, right? There's just so much here. Like, okay, let's take it from the top. Cover story or the double spread, super cool. Gabon talking about how he knew, which this to me is kind of nuts because that means Shanks knew and Gabon knew, which means Rayleigh probably knew, and Rayleigh never pulled up to the war, which is kind of shitty on Rayleigh's part. Not gonna lie. But then this is kind of disrespectful. Like, hey, a position isn't hereditary. Sometimes those with the greatest expectations placed on ugh, fail to achieve that greatness. That's crazy. That's basically Oda saying that, like, even though Ace had, like Nepo peace is a thing, it wasn't true for him. Like, that's kind of crazy. That's like Oda's answer to Nepo peace. Um, all this stuff of him slowly losing himself and then like getting stabbed and coming over, like and them feeling that conquers hockey. Um, I do like that it seems like um Harold tried to fight the control, which I'd imagine that this is almost harder to fight against than like Domi Reversi because you made this pact willingly. What? I know, I know. You made this pact willingly with Emu. So to be able to fight it like this, pretty impressive, I feel like. Because I feel like this would be harder to fight against than Domi Reversi. Um, and like him having the chance, this like heart to heart with Loki and Yarul, just being like, tell this to the Elbaf people. Tell them I'm trash. I turned against everyone. Blah blah blah. You need to destroy. You need to eat the devil fruit and take you feed the treasure of Elbaf to Loki. And it says, with the power of God, I will be unstoppable, which means that there's some form of God fruit that Loki ate, I feel like, because I mean, it would only make sense. I wonder if it is like the earth god or something like that, because then to use Ragnir, it's like if you were made out of earth or had like earthy type things, the electricity wouldn't hurt you at all that Ragnir puts off. So pretty interesting. That's what I think there. I think that it's possible earth god fruit. Um and then like this whole thing, it's like you must kill me, take the throne, tell the people what a fool of a king I was, kill me and be a hero. Once I'm dead, my reputation means nothing to me. All that matters is Elbaf's future. Am I wrong? Like that's pretty heartbreaking. And then he just like turns and becomes like a completely different person. And yeah, Yarul gets the fucking sword in his head, like I said he did. Um, W for me on that one. I've been saying that since we saw Harold in that picture, and the sword that he had matched the sword that was in Yarul's head. Shanks and Gaban coming through and attacking Harold is pretty crazy. I wanted to see how this plays out, and then this whole thing with Ragnar swinging on Loki without anyone being there. Pretty cool. Um, Overall, it was a very interesting chapter. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Um, I think that this chapter gave us exactly what we all kind of were thinking at this point. Obviously we can kind of put two and two together on what was coming, but just to see it like this is different. You never quite you have good ideas, you have a good understanding of um what it could be, but you never quite know if you're on the mark, or if you're even within you know the actual ballpark of something like that. So I don't know, it was just super good. Someone putting 6-7 in my account, in my chat here. um but yeah, like it definitely was a super good chapter. It gave us a lot of good information. But it doesn't say if there's a break week. So, um, if we get another chapter next week, that's gonna be pretty tight. I'm not gonna lie, because I have like all next week off. So I'm super happy with the fact that if we get another chapter, that means that probably, oh man, that means we'll probably finish up the flashback. And then once we hit the New Year's, we're gonna fucking be back at Elbath cruising. So overall, I think this was a really good chapter. It built on a lot. It gave us a lot of payoff. It gave us a lot of interesting things to think about. Um, and just overall was a good chapter to bring it full circle almost. We just have that last little piece um till we, um that last little piece to bring this thing home. So, I'm super excited. Um I think that this is going to be an incredible backstory. It might be top because you got a lot of rock stuff that was really good. You got a lot of Loki stuff. You got tragedy. You got all that, and then you have the tragedy of him having to kill his own father, which is fucking um yeah, just crazy. I love it. Overall, I would give this chapter probably like 7.5, 8, somewhere around there. 7.5. I feel comfortable with. It didn't give us anything super crazy. It just gave us a lot of closure and gave us a lot of insight into the last minute stuff that took place here. So, um, so yeah, overall, love it. I think this is great, and I can't wait. I can't wait to see what comes next. So, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Was I right? How do you How are you, liking this backstory? Tell me your thoughts because, I say this every stream, but One Piece is better as a conversation. I love having that conversation with you guys. Um, and it's just this whole Elbaf flashback, Rocks flashback has just been peak to me. So let me know what you think um, about it as well. And overall, I just think that it's been good, and I can't wait to see where things go. And we also have, if you have read the Jump Festa notes that Oda left, we have a lot coming in the near future. A lot. I think we're gonna be moving at a pretty fast pace. So just be ready for that because things are gonna be developing real quick. As always, I am your boy, Nerdtaku, and I will see you guys probably next week because it doesn't seem like there's a break week. And um we will definitely be enjoying, I mean, 1170 is crazy. So 1170 and we're gonna be seeing some crazy stuff. Probably the wrap up of Elbaf's flashback or the Loki flashback. So anyway, I will see you guys next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you hopefully Friday, maybe Saturday, depending. Anyway.